Danielle's just come on board.
Oh, we've got Sam at the Gold Coast.
Hello, Sam.
How lucky.
Jack Woods, Melbourne baby. Hello.
Jack down in Melbourne, locked in his room with his one housemate, I believe. Avalon in Wagga. Wow. Who would have thought?
Mrs. Hunter.
Who would have thought? We'll just give it another, it's only one pass, so we'll just give it another couple of minutes, I think, and then look into it. Hey, Danielle, how you doing? Thanks for coming on again. It's a few weeks in a row, and thought lucky we didn't scare you off. Danielle was a panellist there last week, so she's back for more. She absolutely loves it. Oh, there you go. Danielle said it's a Thursday night ritual now.
We've got Greg that's just come on board. Hey, Greg.
Perfect. And Mon down in Albury. How you doing, Mon?
Hey, Mon.
Mon, the old regular attendee as well. Geez, the pressure's on now. We're going to have to do these every week.
No.
So,
I think.
you got Andrew Carey. Andrew, thanks for coming on again, mate. You've been a regular as well, so we appreciate it. You're a good man. All right, what do you reckon, Katie?
Yeah, we might just. Oh.
Am I rushing, am I?
Patience is a virtue, Riley.
Oh, thank you, Julie, as well, for being on there. I'll shout out to my mum. Love you dearly.
I just see Craig cooking a barbecue and having a Corona.
Well, wait.
I hope it's the right Corona, Craig.
Caitlin. Too soon. No, good on you, Craig. Why not? This sort of weather we're getting down here at the moment, it's beautiful. So,
well, I might just start to firstly introduce ourselves. So, for those who don't know us, my name's Katie Fuller, and I'm a senior recruitment consultant, and my colleague Riley Hunter, who's our Managing Director of Huntsman Recruiting. So we first established the Strange Times webinar series to address the impact of COVID-19 in our communities and bring as much relevant information to the public as we can. So we have offices in both Wagga and Albury-Wodonga, and our heart truly lies within these centres. So we'd like to welcome everyone to the part 4 of the Huntsman Recruiting Strange Times webinar series featuring Mr. Iggy McGowan. So thank you to all who are attending. It's great to see our communities supporting one another. So we've been inundated with people sending in questions, which has been fantastic, and we'll try to squeeze in as much as we can. And we want this to be as interactive as possible. So chime in with any questions at any time. And if you do have a question, feel free to type them into the Q&A box and we can bring it up for discussions. So Riley, I might throw that over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Caitlin. So before we kick things off, obviously we just want to introduce our panellists for this evening's event. His name's Iggy McGowan. His business is called Via Bellatorus. I hope I've got that right, Iggy. Look, Katie and myself have been working with Iggy for a little bit over 3 years now, and the results have just been phenomenal. That's the only way I can really explain it. I was going through some really personal things a few years back and struggling a lot with a couple of different issues. And I was recommended to speak with Iggy by a really close friend as well. It was actually Iggy's sister. But I've never looked back, and it seems like it was a different lifetime now as well. The changes I've made have just been amazing basically anyway. So I just feel like a completely different person. Both physically and mentally, and the changes that have happened to the business have been great as well. So, look, I always say, if anyone asks as well, that Iggy is basically the epitome of practicing what you preach, and you won't come across a more grounded and balanced person. So everything that he's taught Katie and myself from the get-go, I've never once been speaking to him even a month or 6 months or 12 months down the track, and his I guess story or communication to me has not changed once anyway. So that's what I absolutely love about it. It's so simple but really, really effective. So what I've found beneficial the most is that Iggy's been there and done that. He's experienced a hell of a lot in his life. And in my opinion, I think that experience trumps a degree in psychology any day of the week. And again, that's just my opinion. So, but yeah, look, all right, what I'll do, we'll throw it over to Iggy now. If he just wants to give us a bit of a rundown of himself and what he does with his clients and how he transforms them. And then we'll get stuck into these questions. But just quickly before that as well, we want you to chime in with as many questions as possible. This is where you're going to get the most out of this. If you want, you can put your status on anonymous as well. So we just want people to be really vulnerable and just bring anything onto the table as well. Nothing's out of the question here. So thanks, Iggy. I'll throw it over to you, mate.
Yeah, well, hello to all that are watching, and thanks, Riley. Thanks, Katie. So my work with people is I guide people to complete power within themselves. So I teach people how to use their mind as the powerful tool that it is, rather than people being used by their mind. So that's it in a nutshell, my work with people.
Perfect. Very simple. Just like all your messages, Iggy. So
that's it.
I remember even at the start when I'd text Iggy back and forth, there'd be one-word answers and I'd be thinking, hold on, is he off me? Have I done something here or whatever? But anyway, we talked through that later on, and it is just this real clear and concise communication that really cuts through all the rubbish that's out there these days anyway.
And a reason for that, Riley, on that note, is it's about reduction and keeping things simple. There's enough out there in the world that makes everything complicated for people, and this is how people get in fear states, is their thinking becomes very complex and they overwhelm themselves by this inundation of mental noise. So the more that people can learn to communicate simply in a reduced way, the more powerful their life and the better they feel.
Yeah, spot on. So what we're talking about, that powerful life. So how do you create a powerful habit? And on the flip side, how do you eliminate a bad habit?
So to create a habit is simply something that you do repeatedly. So whatever you do again and again. Now, most people, they're created by their habits. So this is the difference. You either create your habits consciously that are powerful habits that work for you, or you repeat unconscious patterns and which become these erosive habits. So both are a choice. Okay, you either choose to create a habit that is beneficial, that works for you, or you can just get blown around in the wind like a leaf and repeat unconscious habits. So the best way in creating a new habit is to start small. To start small and do it repeatedly. An example that I like to use is like with push-ups. It's what's more beneficial, to do 1,000 push-ups one day out of the year, or do 10 push-ups every day, the same time each day. Obviously, you get the greater result by doing the 10 push-ups daily, or even if it was 3 push-ups daily. It builds over time, and it's the habit that gets the result. And when it comes to your question, how do you replace or how do you eliminate a bad habit? Yeah. It's by stopping that action and replacing it with another habit. So building, the difference is being conscious about it, consciously creating the habit which takes you in that direction that you're wanting to move in.
Yeah. And I was going to touch on that as well. So it's like, I guess when I spoke about a few years ago when I was having some personal dramas, and I did have an extremely destructive habit back then, or whatever you want to call it. But that's what you spoke to me about, replacing what I was doing with a simple, say, a cup of tea. And every time I wanted to indulge in that sort of habit, I would just simply have a cup of tea. So I ended up having 1,000 cup of teas over a few months, but it eliminated that bad habit with something which was positive.
Exactly. That's a great example, because it's simply replacing the erosive habit with a habit of strength, and doing that as frequently and as repetitiously as you were the erosive habit, until it just becomes the new way of doing it.
Do a lot of people get stuck in, though, they'll start the habit and do it for 10 or 15 days and go, this isn't working and we're not getting any results, or I've still got the urge to go back to the old habits? So what would you say to that? Because that's what happens with a lot of people that I hear about anyway.
Absolutely. And so it's consistency is the key. You see, a lot of people, their impatience gets the better of them, and they go, "Oh, this doesn't work," and they'll simply stop it. Well, it's not it that doesn't work; it's you that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's a matter of cultivating discipline by being consistent and repetitious with it. You know, discipline is a muscle. It's got to be trained, and again, it's by starting small. You know, start with a small daily habit, do it repeatedly, and then that ability to create a habit that develops and grows.
Yeah. And I guess, do you hear a lot too, Ig, of people saying to you, it's easy for you, you think differently to me, I can't be that disciplined?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. And look, it always humours me. Saying that is just a complete dismissal and disregard of what I've done to get to where I am. You know, it's the equivalent of someone saying to someone that's done really well in business, it's like if I said to Riley, the only reason, you know, you're successful in business is, you know, you're just lucky. You know, you're just like that, you know, but we both know that's a lie, because the truth is, no, you've put in the work. You've put in the work that has gotten you the results. You've done it repeatedly, and that's what's gotten you to where you are. And that's the same with myself. Look, I wasn't always this way. I had discipline when it came to fighting, you know, fighting professionally. When it came to training and being in the gym and fighting, I had laser-like focus and I had absolute discipline. I put in the work and I got the result. But I wasn't always putting this across the board at all. You know, I had a very destructive past where I was up to all sorts of shenanigans, and it's because I wasn't applying it within my life. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I started to apply it in everything that I did and started to create. It's exactly what I teach, started to create these habits, started to live in responsibility and create these habits within how I think, within how I speak, within my actions, that then formed the life that I live and who I am today. So does that answer your question there, Katie? I do. I hear that a lot from people. Yeah. And people will love their excuses. People love their excuses, and that is a classic excuse. It's a classic disregard of their own personal responsibility, and it's a way of saying, oh no, you're just like that because of this. It's a way of giving away their power.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you've probably heard all the excuses under the sun between Katie and myself over the last 3 years.
Yeah, but, you know, it's all part of it. It's all a part of people making progress, and you know, it's so beneficial. What I love about the two of you, you know, in our work together is the two of you have been so open, and you'll say what it is that you're thinking. Now, a lot of people hold back on that. Oh, I don't want people to know what I'm thinking, and they'll, you know, keep it to themselves. But because of that, they don't move forward. Whereas the two of you have been very open and willing to say it, even though, you know, some of them are classic excuses, but you're willing to say it and then gain a different understanding around it. And in the process, you transform how you're seeing things.
Yeah. I think it's funny because you'd never pull me up on my excuses to begin with anyway. But over time, we ended up realising what I was doing myself. And now it is, as soon as I do feel a little bit of an excuse pop up, if I'm having a chat with you or anyone else, I'm like, hold on, I'm the one who's creating this. I'll create this whole thing. So there's no excuses. Take ownership of my part in whatever's happened, be it good or bad, and go down those lines instead of creating all this sort of own drama myself.
For sure. Well, the thing with excuses is that the only one that gets fooled is the person saying it, the person doing it. See, so many people, they think they're so clever, and, you know, it's often that the more intellectual someone is, the more clever and crafty their excuse gets. But again, they try and convince someone of that excuse, but the only one that they're fooling is themselves. So, you know, it ends up revealing itself to people.
Yeah.
I've just even noticed over the last 3 years that I've got a big ego.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. What are you paying Iggy for? I could have told you that.
I guess noticing that coming up in different conversations and my actions, but I guess how can we create sort of more self-awareness around that so people can realize when their ego is creeping in so they can stop those thoughts or actions?
Yeah, for sure. So to develop more self-awareness, it's about creating a habit, who would have thought, about creating a habit, though, of reflecting, of becoming the watcher of your thoughts and of your actions. the way to correct anything, whether it's a thought or whether it's a physical technique, you first have to be aware of what you've been doing that's been eroding you. And now, if you don't stop and have a look, if you don't stop and step back from what you've been thinking, from what you've been doing, then you won't be able to see it. So the solution and the practical means of correcting things is to step back and become that watcher, become the watcher of what you're thinking and how your behavior is. And so I would suggest, again, starting small, whether it's 10 minutes a day, of every evening, where you can sit and reflect on your day, right? What have I been thinking? What have my actions been? And notice what it is that you've been doing. And then from there, that's when you're able to, start the process of making corrections and, conditioning new responses.
Do people see that as a scary thing to do at the start, to watch your own?
Absolutely. And it's like what's occurring right now globally is, people have been forced into the thing that they fear the most, or one of the things, which is facing themselves. A lot of people's distractions have been taken away from them. Now, one thing that people are terrified of is sitting with themselves, is facing that little voice in the head. Oh, what might come up? Oh, so they avoid it. They avoid it, whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, social media, whether it's work, whether it's going to shopping centres, whether it's going to football, the pub, like any of these things. I'm not saying that any of these things are bad, but it's how people are using them, what they're using them for. And a lot of the time people will use all of these things as distractions from ever sitting with themselves and gaining some knowledge about themselves, looking at what's going on within the workings of their mind. And, this fear keeps them from ever facing it. Whereas right now it's an opportune time. Look, everyone's got more time on their hands and, these distractions have been taken away. So the advantage is there, the opportunity is there for people to sit with themselves and face it, and in doing so, liberate themselves from that fear or change some of these destructive habits and create some new ones.
Yeah, and even we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago too. I realised I had a bit of a habit of going to the supermarket every night. It became like an addiction. I don't even know why I went there. I just spend money willy-nilly. But and I had this big urge to go and do that a couple of weeks ago. But it was only because I felt like I was stuck. I was climbing the walls here. I was like, I wanted to go to the gym. I just wanted to do something. And then I realised it was just me avoiding. It was me trying to run away from things anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But even to realise that is great. Even to realise that it is a great thing. Because, it's the same with people that will do mindless eating. They will, or mindless scrolling on their phone. It's these habits that people develop by mindless, I just mean unconscious. They're doing it. It's not like they're like, oh, I'm going to make myself overweight and I'm going to make myself, feel terrible and miserable. So then they just keep doing it. But it's a habit. So it's repeated.
Yeah.
So this is what really it is about developing is awareness. It is about developing, this clearer perspective and understanding as to why you do what you do.
Yeah, like sorry.
Sorry. With everything that's happening at the moment, what are you hearing the most about from your clients?
So from my clients, I would say that the two main things at the moment. One is time management or a lack of time management from people. And the other is, dealing with uncertainty. How do you deal with uncertainty? And the two of these are very interconnected. One thing is people, a lot of people in this situation, they've got no routine. They have created no structure and they're not getting anything done. They're getting around the house in their pajamas. They're, sleeping in, they're getting up at different times, they're eating differently. And because of this, there's no structure. Well, of course, that's going to make anyone feel uncertain. So on top of, the focusing on the uncertainty and the change that is occurring outside of people, when they've got no structure like that, it's only going to feed that. It's like throwing fuel on the fire of the uncertainty. So the solution for both is the same, which is start to manage your time, start to structure your day, start to jot down the tasks that you have to complete for that day, allocate a time for them, and in that, get things accomplished. Now, even having some structure, having routine in your day, that is a discipline. And, no, discipline isn't the boogeyman. Discipline is simply the creation of habit. And when you do this, when you create this structure, that's going to give you some certainty. That's going to help eliminate all of these thoughts about what if this, what if that, what's next? Because you know that I do this at this time. At this time I do this then. That's going to build that certainty. Now, the other part of that question, Katie, is, to do with the uncertainty that people are facing. Well, if you're constantly focusing on what's happening outside of you and change and, all the what ifs, you're going to feel very uncertain. So the solution for that is also to start to speak to yourself differently. Instead of looking and going, everything's going wrong, oh no, this is terrible, everything's fallen apart, start to speak to yourself in a more truthful way and say to yourself simply, everything's falling together. Everything is moving to perfection. Now, this isn't about positive thinking. I'm not about positive thinking, not about hoping or wishing. It's about looking at things in a clearer and more logical perspective. Now, if you look at everything within life, everything through nature, you will see that everything moves harmoniously together through destruction and creation. Things that appear to be falling apart, it's only a very small part of a much bigger picture. Everything is actually falling together. And it's only the mind that wants to resist change and argue with it and say that it's bad and terrible and have all these opinions. That's the only thing that creates the fear state and makes people resist life's unfoldment. Now, when you resist life's unfoldment, I've got news for you. You're going to be broken down. You are not going to win because life is the greater force. But what you can do is you can align yourself to this greater force. And in aligning yourself to it, through the thought process, you begin to move with that greater force. You become the greater force. And that's when you flow with life.
So how do you learn to flow with it though? Because I remember I battled with this a little bit at the start too, but how do you get into that groove of just relaxing into things? And
yeah, so it's a matter of changing the voice in your head, because everything starts here within your thinking. All action, all emotion, they're all created here within the thought. So the repeated thought that everything's going wrong, oh no, what's going to happen next? Oh no, everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
That voice has to change. You have to start to speak to yourself differently. And that is how you align yourself to that greater force.
Yeah.
So you need to slow down and you need to stop the fearful rambling and start to replace it with simple, energetic truth that aligns you to what is happening, what is actually happening, not what you think is happening.
Yeah. And that's even at the start, I guess, back in January when the bushfires were coming through, and then like that probably created that uncertainty in me as well. And I was like, what is happening here and how long is this going to go on for? And all the smoke, and like we copped it relatively good here in Wagga. But and even when the coronavirus first hit, sitting there listening to all the press conferences as well, I was just starting to feel myself getting more and more unsettled. And I was like, holy shit, what's actually going to happen here? Like, and then I was just craving that next information about it, basically, to really feed this fear instead of just saying, instead of just saying to myself, like, no, this is fine, like nothing's happened yet. Well, that's what I ended up doing anyway, is changing that thought pattern to go, no, nothing is wrong at the moment.
Yeah.
What is wrong at the moment?
At the start, Riley, where I was like craving that next update or the press conference from Scott Morrison to see what the next restrictions were. And as soon as I recognized what I was doing, I actually haven't listened to the news since.
And yet you're still here, yet you live and breathe. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why people do that is, it's looking for certainty outside of them. It's looking for maybe in the next update, maybe in this, or then I'll know what's going on. Then I'll know what's going on. No, all you ever have to know is how you're going to respond to what is occurring. You don't need to know all the what ifs. You don't need to know what is going to happen. all you need to know is whatever occurs, I'll be victorious. Whatever occurs, I'll prevail. No matter what, I'll adapt and I'll work with it. Now, when you start to speak, see, that is within your control. That's what you can, that's the only thing you ever have control over. The only thing you ever have complete control over, and all you ever need to have control over, is your response, is you. So when you just come back to focusing on what is within your control, and you start to speak to yourself simply like that and go, yep, no matter what, that's the certainty I have. The certainty that I have is that no matter what, I will work with it. No matter what, it's happening for me, and I'll adapt and change.
Yeah.
Just
quickly.
Sorry, Riley. I just want to touch on to like Iggy's, what you mentioned before, Iggy, about that time management, because I really struggled in the beginning when all this started happening, and I was working from home. I got the kids out of school and out of daycare, and I really struggled with that structure. Like you mentioned, I was in my pajamas until 12 o'clock, some days till 4 o'clock.
You've been doing that for the last 3 years, though, Kate. I don't kid everyone on here.
And where did that get you, though? Where did that get you?
Well, I was so unbalanced and not focused. Things in the office dropped. My parenting really, well, it dropped.
Yeah, but this is it. You do it.
Yeah, and that was something I've really struggled with, was juggling those priorities with being a mum, homeschooling, setting them up with activities, but still being able to work from home. So I guess, what's your advice to people who are struggling to trying to keep up with kids and work?
Yeah, definitely. So it's about creating that structure. Now, if you yourself weren't creating any structure, then how did it make you feel? It made you feel unbalanced. It made you feel uncertain. You didn't know what was going on. So if it's having that impact on you, I guarantee it's going to have that impact on your kids. Yeah. Now, it's going to big time. One, because you're not at your best. One, because you're uncertain. So that puts them in a fear state. They pick up on that. Yeah. So the more that you keep yourself balanced, the more that you are grounded and you create structure yourself, that impact is going to be on your kids also. But then it's also about creating the structure for them to be able to operate within. And if it's that they're wanting attention, then of course they're wanting attention, but structure that in to your day where, okay, I'm going to set up an independent task, one that I supervise or one that I'm involved with, where I can give my full attention to them. I can give them my full attention. We do that. And then when it comes to a completion, I educate them and let them know, okay, now mum or dad, yep, we need to get on with our work now. And now I need to do this, and I need your help by you doing your task. And then that means that then we can play or do another thing together in the afternoon, whatever that is. And these things, it doesn't have to be, hours of full attention. It's more about quality. Kids, they want your attention. They want you present with them. So it's about factoring that in, structure that in, even if it's 20 minutes of playing a game with full attention. So, then you've done that in the morning, then you can get on with your tasks with full attention, develop your presence through that, get things done. And then once that is finished, then you can, do that afternoon task.
And it's good that you said presence, like being present, because I know here, even way before this whole crisis had come about, I know that I've spoken to you in the past how I feel like I haven't been present with the kids as much, and I don't spend enough time with them. And I think I've mentioned it on here once before, but now I'm spending all this time with them, and I'm mentally not present with them because my mind's focused on other things. So I'm spending all the time in person with them. I'm just not spending that quality time with them.
And I'm sure that probably then leads to, thoughts of guilt because, I wasn't actually there, and then overcompensating, and it pollutes the whole run of the show.
Yeah.
So again, the solution is to develop your presence. As soon as you notice that you're not there, bring your attention back. Now, one of the reasons why it's so important to structure your day is once you've structured it, once you have that routine there, then you can simply be in the step. And this is how you overcome fear is by being in the step. When you're present, there is no fear. Fear is always this thinking about all the what ifs and not being where you are. So it's about making a discipline and making a practice of it in your daily life.
And that probably leads into this next one as well about, it's probably the same thing with anxiety, but a lot of people are anxious at the moment, and well, not even throughout this, like before that as well. But how do people overcome their anxieties?
So anxiety is a fear state. It's a state that's created by two things. One, what you're focusing on, and two, what you're doing with your body. So what you're focusing on, if you're constantly focusing on all of the what ifs, all of the, as I've been through in this, is like all of these what ifs, all of the imagined mind projections into the future, that's a sure way to get yourself into a fear state. How am I going to deal with this? What if this happens? What if this? So if you're constantly focusing on that, then your breathing changes. Then what you're doing with your body starts to change. You start to make yourself smaller. You start to slouch. You start to breathe shallow in the chest or hold your breath. People will do this without even realizing. Now that alone, how you breathe alone affects everything within your body. It affects what hormones are released. If you're breathing shallow in the chest here, there are fear receptors which will release cortisol and other fear hormones that cloud the mind and put the body into a fear state. And that becomes a vicious loop also, because then your mind starts looking for a threat. It starts looking for a problem to explain why the body is in this fear state.
Yeah.
And so to break free from it, in answer to your question, Riley, is start to become aware of what you are focusing on. If you're experiencing overwhelm or anxiety, it's because you are not in the step. You can't be overwhelmed when you're in the step. And by in the step, I mean being where you are. If those watching look around right now and ask yourself a simple question, is there anything happening right now to be afraid of? Is there anything happening right now that is a problem? Now, the answer, I don't care who you are or where you're sitting, the answer is no. It doesn't mean that there aren't challenges. There might be a challenge, but a challenge when it's happening in the moment is something that you respond to. You respond to it within the moment. The problem is only this is within the head. It's all this thinking about all the what ifs. So come back to being where you are, be in the step in order to eliminate the anxiety. Couple that with breathing correctly. Start to notice how you're breathing, and that will calm you down. That will calm down the nervous system, clear the mind, and relax the body.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. It came up, I'm sure my sister Meg will be fine with me telling it. If not, I'll get a call soon. But the last couple of nights she's been at home alone, and she just gets extremely worried that someone's going to break in or someone's going to come in and harm her or whatever as well. And that's what I've been talking to her about, is just what's going on right now. It could happen to any of us. We won't know, but you can only react when it happens, or you can respond when it happens. But yeah, what would you say to that sort of situation? It might help Meg anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And hello, Meg. Great to have you on. So, the thing is, any of this, whether it's that someone's going to break in and attack you, I use this example to some people when I'm explaining this. Is I'll say, look, sitting here right now, if I'm physically proficient, I can fight. I have no concerns in that regard. But if I sat here and continually focused and thought that in 2 weeks, someone might come through that door with a machete and try and take my head off, that might happen. And I kept focusing on it and trying to think, how will I handle it? What will I do? What if they do this? What if they're more skilled? What if they've, got 5 arms or, all of these things? If I kept focusing on that, then that's a sure way to start, creating some concern. Yet if someone came through the door right now with a machete trying to take my head off, then it's something that I could just respond to. It's something that I could just deal with then. So the problem is only the thinking, the imagining all of these what ifs.
Yeah.
So that's it. When you just bring yourself back to what is real, stop dealing with the what ifs, deal with what is.
Yeah.
Meg's just asked, can Iggy come and live with me?
Well, we can look into that, Meg. I'll have to ask my dear partner, Sam, if she's okay with that. But yeah, we'll look into it.
Meg, I don't think he's going to put up with those excuses. She can come too, she said. So.
Well, we'll look into it.
Look out. No, that's great. I remember talking to you about it because I've had myself, like a few years ago, especially in extremely anxious states and having panic attacks, and you talk yourself into it. You're like, oh,
Absolutely.
here it is again. Here it is. Oh, here's that whole feeling. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. When's it going to hit? Bang. And then you're into it. And well, you can just see it. And like you told me, it's just take a huge deep breath, relax, and you slowly over time, you realise you're creating it all yourself.
Absolutely, Riley. And
morning, sorry, I was having a really tough time. I've got 2 young boys that are pretty active, and we're in the middle of renovating our kitchen. I don't know why we decided to do that in this crisis, but we've got half a house and these poor kids are just jumping off the walls. And I just sort of was quite defeated by them yesterday morning. It was 7:15. They'd been up since 6 o'clock. And I'd sent out like a text or a Snapchat to some girlfriends, exactly knowing the response that I was going to get. Like, poor you, you're right. And that sort of just fed the fire within me, because I was even wanting that response for them to even make me think, oh, you know, I've got it so tough. You know, poor me, I'm in the middle of doing this kitchen. I've got these 2 raging children. And I was almost like playing the victim there and wanting people to, yeah, like you said, fuel the fire.
Yeah. And so, you know, and I'm sure that wouldn't have got you anywhere. You didn't feel great about that. No. And, you know, this is, so that too, that sort of thing where, you know, you're sending out a Snapchat, or, you know, you're looking for someone to come and save you, you know, and it's giving your power away and dismissing your responsibility in the situation where you are up to it, you know. And we had a discussion about this, and, you know, you are up to it. All that has to change is how you're responding within the situation. Yeah. Because you said it yourself, you were saying to yourself repeatedly, I'm defeated, I can't do this, I've had enough, I can't do this. Well, anyone that speaks to themselves like that is absolutely going to start creating those feelings, because it's your thoughts that create your feelings. So the more that you speak to yourself in that erosive way, it's going to erode you, it's going to break you down, and you're not going to perform well. So how you turned that around, you know, after we had a conversation, is changing that voice, starting to say to yourself, I am up to this, I'm calm, you know, and got your balance back within yourself.
Yeah, and it was quickly that I recognized that, and I was able to remove myself from the mayhem that was going on in the lounge room and actually go and focus. I spent a little time meditating and going through some IM work. And Riley, you might even want to ask a question about that with, you know, our sort of rituals and what Iggy's taught us with powerful language. And
so with that, I'll just, if you don't mind, Riley, so with that, Kate, it's a great point. So what you did, you were in a panicking state, you were feeling overwhelmed and defeated, and you did a great job of creating that state. And then you took yourself away, so you created some space, which is fantastic. You know, this is it. You created some space, and then you started to consciously correct the thought. You started to speak to yourself. When Katie mentions the IM work, so this is a ritual that I'll go through with people, is creating a ritual in your day. So 3 times a day, the same time every day, where you focus on a symbol and you repeat a statement to yourself. Now, you know, that might be, I'm calm, I'm focused, I'm confident. Whatever the 3 qualities are that you're wanting to develop more of within yourself. Yeah. Now, when you went and you started doing your statements of power and you started speaking to yourself differently like that, Katie, it's brought you back into balance. Yeah. Because instead of saying, I'm defeated, I can't do this, I am no good, whatever it was, you replaced it and you started to speak to yourself in strength. And in turn, that obviously created new feelings, which, you know, made you better able to deal with the situation. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah. And it is interesting that the symbol work as well, because that's what I've been doing that for a while, but I'll come in and out. It's like a habit where and I've spoken to you about it plenty of times before, and I think that's what a lot of people do with other areas of their life, is the gym or eating or whatever, or drinking, but I'd get to a point, I'd do it for, I think the most I've done it is probably an 8-week stretch straight, and I started feeling fantastic. I had all these habits in line. I'd wake up, I'd do the breathing, I'd do the IM work. At lunchtime, I'd do the same thing. Before I go to bed, I'd do the same thing. and I started feeling absolutely fantastic. And I was like, sweet, I'm all good here. I'm done. And then I'd stop doing it and become lazy and make excuses again. And it is funny because it would be a couple of weeks' time and I'd be talking to you, like, shit, yeah, I'm feeling pretty anxious and this is happening, whatever. And then he's like, are you doing the work still? We're like, no. And I remember at the start I used to, basically tell him what he'd want to hear. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it. Yeah, I've been doing it. Whereas now it's just like, no, I haven't. And it makes a huge difference. But what do you say with that when people sort of start a really good habit like that, but then just fall off?
That is discipline. That is discipline is these habits, and why people will start and stop, and more often stop than continue on is because of that lack of discipline. Now, discipline, as I said before, it's a muscle. It's got to be trained. Okay, it's not some nasty form of punishment. It is being able to consciously create habits that move you in the direction you're wanting to go in. But discipline, as I said, is a muscle. You've got to train it. You've got to do it repeatedly. And that's it. It's like as soon as you notice that you've stopped, start again straight away. Don't go into a story about it and go, oh no, this doesn't work, and defend the fact that you've stopped. Simply begin again, start small, and over time you'll be able to build on it.
Yeah.
But it's having this, it's doing things daily, and this is why it's so important to have rituals in your day, because it's what you do frequently that develops your frequency. It's what you do repeatedly that forms your life. Yeah. And by simple things like setting an alarm in your phone where you stop and you do repeat statements of power to yourself, or having the 10 minutes of reflective time of an evening where you stop and you look at, okay, now what's been my most erosive thought? Where has my focus been today? What have I been saying to myself that has, created miserable feelings? What could I replace that with? You must create these spaces for yourself in order to be able to correct it.
And even on that as well, like it was only probably 6 months ago we were talking, so I'd constantly see these thoughts coming up and I'd correct them, but I'd correct them in a really negative tone. Like I'd be going, why are you thinking like that? Like, pull your head in, stop. Like, why is that? It was worse than that, but I won't say it on here.
No, but that happens.
Where when we just got told it, and you're like, no, speak to yourself like you would your child or your pet, or something. Love yourself basically,
look, that's a great point. It's why people will react within their own head and get frustrated and pissed off and get annoyed with themselves. Oh, I'm doing it again. Oh, why did I do that? That only feeds it. That only feeds it and continues on that same habit. When that happens, that's being identified with the thought or identified with the behavior. Now, Katie mentioned an ego before. That's what the ego does. It's that little me that goes, oh, that's, I'm no good and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of dealing with the mind in a technical way. It's not personal. It is technical. Life isn't personal. It's technical. People will make it personal, and that's why they're always falling over. That's why they're always crying and miserable. It's when you can step back and start to deal with things in a technical manner, you then are able to make better choices that are clearer and more balanced and start to move things in the direction you're wanting to go in.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it takes patience. You must be patient. When you speak to yourself, most people have this rambling voice of fear within their head. It's like a little child. Yeah, but I want to do this, and this is too hard. And the thing is, what you need to develop is the voice of the adult, the voice of like a parent. Okay, that strong man or powerful woman, and grow that voice within the head where it is logical and speaks in strength. And when that little rambling voice comes up, you must patiently correct that rambling voice with logic, in simplicity. And it requires patience, where you say to yourself, no, there is no problem, this is fine. It's like, let's use the example before, fearing that what if someone breaks in? It's then stopping and saying to yourself, well, nothing is going wrong right now, anything that the doors are locked, I've done what's within my control. There's no problem. Yeah, but what if they do? And what if this? And oh, but you don't know. Like it's, and then again, take a breath and speak simply to yourself again. There is no problem. Calm down. I am well. There is no threat. Now, the more that you do this, the more that you grow that voice of strength, the more that you grow that voice of the powerful man or woman that you really are. And the less that you feed that voice of weakness, the more that it dissipates until it's gone. Then all that remains is this powerful voice within your head.
I think it just reminded me of, like, especially, and everyone would feel the same about with public speaking. And I remember there's a few times when I'd speak to before it and I'd be like petrified. And like I just don't want to get out there and do it. And we eventually changed it. And I was just like, yeah, I'm excited about this. Like, and that's how I talk to myself. Like, no, I've got nothing to be worried about. I know the topic. I know the people. Even if I didn't, it's fine. Like, I'll get out there. And you're excited about this, Riley. You're not scared of it. You're excited. You're excited. When you go out there, I'd be a completely different person.
Yeah, 100%, Riley. And that's a really, I'm glad that you mentioned this, because this is everything. It's changing the language that you use. You see, everything's energy. In its purity, everything is energy. Now, there can't be anyone that disagrees with that. It is energy. Now, how you experience that energy is determined by how you define it. So the language that you use colors the energy in a particular way, and that is how you experience it. Now, let's use that, for example. A lot of people will experience that feeling that comes up within the stomach before doing something new or doing something in front of people. They'll experience it as nerves, anxiety, worry, petrified. Why do they experience it that way? Because that's how they've defined that energy. Yeah. Now, in its purity, that energy, when it comes up, it is excitement. It is preparing your body. It is making you alert and ready to perform at your best. So what it is, it's excitement. Why is it excitement? Because you're about to do something you haven't done before. You're about to do something that's going to open up great opportunities and advantages. Yeah. So simply by changing the perception, by changing the language and defining it in a different way, you color that energy differently and you experience it differently. Yeah. Now, another quick example of when this is done is, so I work with a lot of fighters, and you know, before fights, a lot of fighters will experience it before working with me as they'll be throwing up out the back. They'll be that nervous and petrified before going out, and they're like, that's just what people do. Oh, every time I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. Listen to the language. I am so nervous. I am anxious. I am. Whereas when you change that, I'm excited. All of a sudden, the energy starts building up. Your perception changes. You start looking for the opportunities. Your mind says, well, why am I excited? I'm excited because I get to express myself. I'm excited because I've done all the work and I get to put it on display in front of people.
It's so true. And even like a question just came through from Ben. Craig, I hope we answered that one for you before. If we haven't, let me know again. But the same as what Ben Elliott's just put on here as well. Is that I am the world's best the same thing. Like, I am the world's best procrastinator at work. My mind, so he keeps telling himself I'm a procrastinator. But
how's that working out?
And he said, my mind says I'll do it later or tomorrow. How do I make a change on this?
Okay, great question, and great to have you on there, Ben. So it's habit. You know, and you've already said it yourself in that I keep saying this to myself. It's like people that go, I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person. You know what I say to that? I'm like, yeah, you're creating it. Yeah, of course. Go for it. It's like, if you want to stay that way, stay that way. Keep speaking to yourself that way. And what do you know? Everything starts here. So you're going to keep acting that way. So what I would suggest is start to speak to yourself differently. Start to say, I get things done. I get things done. And then don't just say it. As I said, it's not about positive thinking. Once you say, I get things done, then align yourself to that. Align yourself to it through your actions. Even if it's something small, such as, jotting down on a piece of paper. Get a diary so you can allocate a time for tasks. And start small. Put down some simple tasks. Even if it's when I wake up in the morning, make the bed. 6 a.m., make the bed. Then when you get up in the morning, as soon as your feet hit the ground, make your bed. Now, when you do that, then tick it off in your diary. Tick it off. That you are programming yourself that I get things done. And even say to yourself when you do it, I get things done. Give it a tick. That starts to build your confidence, and you start to create a new habit. Now, if you do that, if you make your bed every day, okay, then it's a conscious choice. It's a habit. You've created a habit. I create order. I finish the process of sleep. I finish it, and then I begin my day. And I do that every single day. I get things done. I get things done.
Yeah.
Again, see, it's time management. It's creating this new habit that I allocate times for things. I get it done. I tick it off, and that is how I operate. Does that answer your question, Ben?
You're right back soon, but it's so like, and even it comes down to, I think, like even the back to that symbol work and the IM work, which is the same as this question. But I remember when I was doing it at the start, and it was only probably a year ago, where I said, I still didn't 100% believe it. I was like, is this a bit of woo-woo? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I looking at this symbol on my arm and saying this to myself 3 times a day? And then I remember I started watching Dr. Joe Dispenza and his meditations and whatnot as well. And I sort of got more of an understanding of the science behind it. I was like, Jesus, hold on, this actually works. I remember having a chat to you about it, and I was going, guess what? Like, I just heard this, and I was like, it actually changed your neurotransmitters. And then you're like, oh, really, Riley?
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Look, everything is habit, okay? Everything that you do, the way that you think, everything that you do, okay? But it all starts in how you think. Now, there are pathways within your mind. There's neurological pathways. The more that you think a certain way, even if it's unconsciously, that your thoughts keep running down those pathways. Yet when you start to consciously create new thoughts, when you start to speak to yourself differently, new pathways start firing and wiring together, and you create these new neurological pathways. Now, when you're repetitious with it, when you are consistent, they become the way that you think repeatedly. So, again, it's create that habit with it. See how everything comes back to habit. Everything comes back to discipline. And so you've just got to train it. You've just got to start small, but make it easy for yourself by using tools such as a diary. It's where or setting an alarm in your phone where, okay, it goes off every night at 6. That's when I sit down for 10 minutes to not have any distractions and ask myself, how was my day? What did I do? What was my most erosive thought? And start to develop this awareness of what it is that you've been doing. What am I doing repeatedly that is not working for me? What am I doing that is working for me? What is the most powerful thing I can put my focus to right now? And it's through this that you begin to create change.
And because it's the same thing, like I guess you get yourself in these fearful or depressed states or anxious states, because you're saying that to yourself, like you are firing and wiring, like you said, those same neuro pathways basically with the wrong stuff though. And you can change it like that if you stick to it.
You can. It's really replacing these unconscious thoughts and replacing these unconscious patterns. Because put it this way, no one's going to consciously create a fearful and miserable life where they're terrified, seeing everything as a threat. No one's going to consciously do that. So it's obvious that they're unconscious patterns, things that they've picked up over time through the media, through their upbringing, through things that they've been exposed to, things that they've fed themselves with, and then things that they've continued on without developing awareness around it. So it's a matter of correcting that and starting to create these new pathways.
And Ben has written back to you. You like this one? He's like, yes, perfect. Thanks, Iggy. I wouldn't make my bed if only my wife would get out of it.
Good one. Make your half, Ben. This is the thing. I don't want to hear your excuses. Make your half. Be the example. This is the thing. Be the example. Make your half of the bed. Make it neat. And who knows? She might start following suit and doing the same.
Oh, that's so good.
You touched on it before, Ig, and I think it's a really good point. Not taking things personal and keeping them technical. Now, this is probably something that I've struggled with in the past was, you know, if there was something in the office and Riley goes, you know, fix this or whatever it was, and I'm here going, wasn't it bloody good enough? What have I done? But being able to acknowledge that, what sort of, how can you create awareness around that when you are taking things personally? And
well, again, it's by stepping back. And I know that you've gotten so much better. You know, you've made fantastic progress in that area. And, you know, so people do this, they want to save face. They want to defend themselves. Yeah. Even if someone hasn't done the correct thing, if someone isn't operating at their best, very often what they will do is they'll already feel bad about it in themselves, because they know that they're not doing their best. So then when someone else points it out, even if the other person is polite about it or kind about it, very quickly people will get their defense up and go, oh no, what, and want to argue it.
Yeah.
So the solution is understand that there's no need to save face. You don't need to save face. You don't need to defend yourself. There is no attack. Now, when you start to live in that consciousness that there is no threat, that it's not about saving face. It's not, the thing is you forget your face. Let that version of you die and create this new face, create the new who. So that, does that make sense to you? So that, because a lot of people, Hattie, will defend what they don't even want. It's not like when someone isn't doing the correct thing, they will often want to defend that and argue it and try and point the finger at someone else, rather than simply going, great, thanks for pointing that out, and correcting themselves.
Yeah. There's been times, especially within my relationship with my husband, where we've got into an argument and clearly he was in the right, but I was still defending something that wasn't even worth defending, and got to the end of the argument going, I don't even know why this is an argument anymore. I don't know what I'm trying to defend, but still it was just that ego coming out of me going, I'm defending this until...
Yeah, and obviously, you know, I'm sure that so many people can, or everyone can relate to this at some point or another, especially in their very close relationships or with their spouse or their partner. And, you know, it's this saving face. And again, there's nothing to defend. Look, if you notice it, that you do that, once you notice it, that's a little victory. Then simply put your hand up and say, you know what, I apologize for reacting. I've corrected myself, on we go. You know, just put your hand up and say it. It's like, you are not your behavior. You're not your thoughts. You're not your behaviors. You know, so stop defending it, because it's the very thing that just keeps it going on. And that's what makes so many relationships break down, is you'll then get two people reacting and playing tennis with, you know, being defensive and arguing.
Yeah. And I know Avalon and I have listened to this as well. We've been back for the last few weeks. I've got a different opinion on things with the COVID-19 to where she's at, and it's just trying to find that middle ground with things, and finding like each other to have, like, I guess, space for yourself, and just to read a book out the front or whatever, and just with no interruptions, and vice versa, or, you know, whatever it is, have a bath or something anyway. But it's it does. It comes up a fair bit, especially in these situations where everyone is sort of confined a little bit more. It's interesting.
Into Riley, is it better, Ig, to walk away when you know that the other person is not seeing your side? What's your comment there?
Well, it's, you know, the thing is, there's a big difference though between creating some space and disconnecting. Now, nothing ever gets resolved by disconnecting. If you disconnect and you shut down, then you're doing what the other person is doing as well, and nothing gets resolved. There must be connection. So it doesn't mean that you have to create space. Often that's a fantastic way of doing things. Have some space and then come back together. The other alternative is just to remain calm. Is, you know, you want to not react. Don't try and force your perspective onto someone else. It's remain calm and open, and, you know, don't be in a rush that they have to see things how you do. You know, it's not the case, and it doesn't work. It's like, you just must master your own response. Remain calm, and look, if you need space, have some space. It's so important for people to have space, even if it's a little bit each day. You know, like you just mentioned, Riley, especially with this current situation where, you know, people in lockdown and at home, and, you know, some places are very small, and even though it's the people that you love the most, when it's just you guys there all the time, I don't care who you are, if you're not getting some space on your own to come into your own energy and keep yourself balanced, then that's when this niggling can happen, or, you know, clashing, or people can have little outbursts because they're experiencing discomfort within themselves and they want something to pin it on. So more often than not, it's the one closest to them.
And Adam and I have only been married for 2 weeks now. We've nearly been divorced 3 times. So we're doing well. No, it is such a good point. But, and I watched a podcast that you were on the other day as well, and you mentioned, we were talking about discipline as well, and how people see that as this I'm not explaining it the right way, but you basically said that discipline is love. It's the way you reframe it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I was saying is that, you know, discipline, people have this whole idea of what discipline means to them. And, you know, so many people, they reject discipline because they view it like a little kid. They view it as some draconian means of punishment, that it's this severe and ugly monster. And, you know, instead of recognizing that discipline is self-love, discipline is having respect for yourself. Discipline is what enables you to form your life how you want it to be. It is discipline itself that enables you to create the habits. It is a chosen limitation for you to direct your energy through it. Without that, it's like you just, as I said earlier, getting blown around in the wind like a leaf.
Yeah.
So it's about having respect for yourself. It's about loving yourself enough to choose how you shape your life.
Yeah, perfect. And just so everyone we'll have to wrap this up very soon. So if you've got a couple of questions, sing out now. But while we're waiting on anything to come through, can you talk about, we've spoken about it before, it's probably one thing I've battled with as well, or everyone does, is like correcting your diet basically as well, and that impact that your diet and your gut has on your mind and your mental health.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, one thing that people really either don't understand or just want to dismiss and not understand it is the importance of what you fuel yourself with. Now, your forms of nourishment, it's not just food. Your forms of we're nourished by the food that we eat, the thoughts that we think, how we move and how we breathe. These are all our forms of nourishment. So when you choose to fuel yourself with powerful forms of nourishment in each of those, food, thought, movement, breath, that's when you build your personal energy, and that reverberates through the whole of your life. Now, why food in particular is so important is because there's a huge nerve that runs between the gut and the brain. So the gut and the brain, they work together as one. It's a technical thing. It's if your gut is out, it throws your mind out. It's that simple. If your stomach, your digestion is disrupted, then it clouds your mind and you cannot focus. So all sorts of these, you know, foods like, you know, sugar and, you know, all sorts of things that pollute the digestion, put the body into a fear state. Now, then your mind, because they work together, the mind starts looking for a reason for it. Why am I not feeling good? Why is my gut out? Oh, you know, there must be a problem. There must be a threat. And this is what is constantly happening. Then people look for problems, and what you look for is what you'll find. Yeah. So in order to correct the mind, you have to be able to focus. It's that simple. You have to be able to make conscious choices. And, you know, that's why it is so important to eliminate the things from the diet that are throwing the body out and having a clear stomach. Now, look, with diet, it's what so many people struggle with because they're just conditioned to, you know, eat whatever, and you know, they eat their feelings, and it's like, oh no, why not? It's this. Why? There's endless excuses around it. Now, my suggestion to people is just start small. I certainly don't expect everyone to eat how I do, because, you know, I'm very particular in how I eat. I eat, you know, a very pure diet. But why I do that is because I love feeling fantastic. I absolutely love being balanced, having great energy, having a sharp mind, and, you know, all of that's, I love that. Call me crazy, but I love that.
Yeah.
Now that's why I eat how I do, because I love it. But my suggestion to others is to start with, don't overwhelm yourself and think, oh, I need to, eat really strict right now, and start viewing it as a punishment. Just make a conscious choice that I want to fuel myself. I want to have self-love. I want to have self-respect. So I'm going to eliminate one thing to begin with, one thing that I'm having constantly that is eroding me. Now, that might be the bickies late at night. It might be cheese and crackers, or whatever it is. Like, choose one thing to start with and eliminate that. Don't replace it with some other rubbish. 5 tablespoons of Milo, that's a great one to get rid of, and this is it, but eliminate that. Now, when you do this, your confidence will start to grow because you've made a powerful choice and you've stuck to it. That is how you build confidence. See, confidence isn't just something that some people are born with and others aren't. Confidence too is a muscle. It has to be cultivated. And one of the ways to grow your confidence is by making better choices.
Yeah.
Like making your bed, Ben.
Yeah. Because even little things like in the last couple of years, I've gone, like I had a few stints of doing 30 days not having a drink at all. So, but even that, every week when I talked to you and I hadn't had a drink, you get more and more confident to it. You go out for dinner with people, you go to maybe went to a wedding and like business chamber events and whatnot as well, and without touching your drop, and you're driving home or dropping people home, you get home and you're like, oh, that was a big win. And
because you did something that you set out to do.
Yeah. But no, look, thank you, mate. It's 8:10, so we're going to have to let you go. Like I always say anyway, I would appreciate everything that you do for Katie, myself, and my family. And I think everyone on here tonight will be stoked with all the advice that you've given them. But you said today as well that if anyone does want to have a chat after this in the next couple of weeks, you're happy to look at a free initial consultation anyway over the phone.
Absolutely. So, absolutely, Riley. So, that is an offer to this group. Anyone that has showed up tonight and watched, I appreciate you and your time and tuning in. And so my gesture to you is a free consultation. So get in touch with me. You can get in contact with me through Instagram or Facebook Messenger or through my email that's on my website, iggymcgowan.com. Any of these, get in contact with me and we can have a conversation and go from there. Now, obviously, anything tonight that we've gone through, because we're so limited with time, it's only been touching on, many different topics. Yeah. Now, my work with people is I walk you through the process. I make easy for you what others make difficult. So this is it. I'll get you to a position of strength and stability within yourself by walking you through it and making it easy for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is. Sorry, Katie, what was that?
Thank you so much for coming on board and joining tonight.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Some good notes here, mate. People are saying thank you very much as well. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Meg said she's excited to sleep on her own tonight and challenge herself. So
there you go. Good woman.
Going to get rid of those 5 tablespoons of Milo, which I've been telling you for the last 3 years, but supposedly it's good for you. Low GI. But thanks very much. Appreciate it, and thank you everyone. And we'll send out an email tomorrow which will have the recording. We'll also have a link to Iggy's website where you can download. He's got a free diet sort of booklet as well about how he eats, with some great information on there. And thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.